it's not getting any better. That's the sign here. These supply constraints, yes, they're not quite as widespread as they were a couple of months ago. We're seeing some easing in the rate at which they're developing, but they're still getting worse and worse and worse. So this is additional problems to the ones we had before. So that supply chains really dominating the whole manufacturing sector across Europe now, and curbing that growth somewhat.
Well, interestingly, it looks as though the services sector, while the manufacturing sector is continuing to struggle with these supply chain issues, the services sector is getting stronger, with growth in the service sector overtaking that of the manufacturing sector for the first time in the recovery from the COVID pandemic. And this is at the Euro area level. I'm wondering how stable that recovery is given the spread of the Delta variant and the impact that may have on optimism and confidence from businesses in the future.
Yeah, good observation. Yeah, we are seeing that optimism start to come off the boil. Now, some of that's only natural, because obviously in the early stages of a recovery like this, optimism is bound to be very optimistic. And it's just starting to wane a little bit from those highs, from that sort of high base. But the Delta variant is starting to become more evident in the reasons companies are giving us as to why they're perhaps not so perky about the outlook. And we're seeing things like the need for COVID passes, especially in France, being cited by firms as, hey, hang on, this is probably going to limit some of our growth compared to what we thought we were going to get if these sort of restrictions are applied. So the Delta is definitely curbing growth somewhat, but don't forget these numbers are still very high in terms of these PMI growth rates. It's very rare for these indices to stay at this level for long, simply because it's such a surge in growth being recorded. So some cooling of that pace is nothing really to worry about. What we want to see is these numbers hold at these levels, the sort of late 50s, maybe even into the 60s, for a nice long period of time. And if we can sustain that, then recovery is going to be a good one as we go through the second half of this year, which it all seems to be lined up for, really. Yes, there's supply constraints, but very importantly, jobs growth is accelerating. So it's the second month where we've got the best jobs growth in the Eurozone for 2 decades. So firms taking on stuff, they're expanding capacity, they've got the confidence to rebuild their workforces, to rebuild capacity to meet this demand. And if that happens, then obviously supply demand come into balance nicely.